Good day, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about my own IoT project that I have been developing since 2014, and in parallel to that I've been also developing a kind of a spyware software for control of my kids. The idea is quite simple. It all began with the question, and the question is the big important question: are we locked? And of course that question comes at midnight, in bed, with a slight elbow kick in my ribs by my wife, and with a slight note of panic in her voice. Are we locked? And of course, you can guess who gets up, who goes to the door to find out that we are of course locked. And I've been thinking about that problem, curing my pain in my ribs for quite a long time, until all the circumstances came, and the emerge of cheap and good quality IoT hardware like Raspberry Pi and stuff like that made me available all the stuff that is needed to work with my IoT. Well, I finally figured out how to implement that system. I finally managed to grab so-called inductive switch, which is a contactless switch that can be used to detect if the door is locked. I drilled a big hole in my door and put that switch, and then connected that switch to my Raspberry Pi, and from that on it was all pure software. The harder part was easy. And from that moment, the first thing was to make a small LED that would be lit when the door is locked. Okay, but that still requires me to get up from the bed and to go to see if the door is locked. So the next obvious step is to, of course, implement some kind of a computer notification that would end up on my mobile phone. So instead of, kicking me, my dear wife can now look at the phone and see that we are locked. If she is a bit paranoid, she can always tap on the icon and poll the system to find out, are we really locked? So that's the idea. And of course, as a quite unexpected benefit, now I know exact moment when my kids come home, and that in combination with my Evil Dead software makes all this presentation even more fun. So the idea is quite easy to be implemented. You have a kind of a smart door. You put the so-called inductive switch in the door, and then you connect that switch to the Raspberry Pi. And Raspberry Pi is quite nice piece of hardware because it has about 40 GPIO pins on a connector, so you can connect all sorts of digital stuff to it, including the sensor for the door. So the Raspberry Pi notifies then my various servers, and those servers push the notification messages through the Android ecosystem right to my mobile phone, and I get immediate notification that my door has been locked or unlocked with the timestamp when that event happened. And of course, if I visit my website, I can watch in a real time if the door is locked and unlocked. And if I'm, as I said, a little bit more paranoid, I can even poll and ask the system, okay, now give me the exact status of that door. I'm not interested in the history. So that worked perfectly. My ribs are not hurt anymore. But then the hacker and programmer in me kicked in, and I said, I have purchased some Raspberry Pi starter kit, and I have found inside a temperature sensor. Why not adding that to the system? So I wired up a temperature sensor, put it in my on that same Raspberry Pi, and of course, when it worked, I figured out why not introducing several more Pis and several more sensors. So I did that. I bought more Pis, more sensors, and at that moment I had a temperature network sensor. And I had a sensor on my outside of my apartment on a terrace, so I can figure out what's the temperature outside. I have several sensors in my apartment, and then one of the sensors had the humidity. Why not adding that? So I have information about humidity. I mean, it is quite obvious, when it is not that hot and you're sweating, it is humid. But nevertheless, I have implemented that too. And then, of course, I looked at the web to see, what are the most popular sensors that could be added to the Raspberry Pi? And I found out that those are motion detection sensors. So I put them also in the system. But it is a different story, you know. The temperature, you actually ask the Raspberry Pi, what's the temperature at your place? And this is the opposite action. The Raspberry Pi gets notified by the motion detection sensor that someone is moving in front of it. So the Raspberry Pi needs to push that information upwards to the server and then down to my mobile phone or to the web application. So I had to make a little bit more of programming to make something more specific to this problem, and I of course solved that. You will see in a few slides. Okay, now the motion detection works just like this. If the sensor is being activated by someone moving in front of it, it will push that information with the exact timestamp when it was activated right through the web application, so I can see on the motion detection sensor that the timestamp, exact timestamp when that sensor was activated, and if I tap or click on that particular sensor, I can see the list of timestamps when that sensor was activated in time. So when my older son comes home and he starts to you know, lying to me that he came on time, I said, come on, I have a sensor in my door, I have a sensor in my house. I cover everything. And then, okay, not about coming home late. Then he tries to convince me that he really went to sleep on time. And then I saw the sensor being activated at 3 a.m. He went to the bathroom. I said, no, that's not the case. So I became a real evil dad. And that's the story today. Okay, what about actuators? We are talking about sensors. I have only one actuator, and it is not a real actuator. It is actually an infrared diode that emits infrared light. And that thing is connected to one of my Raspberry Pis, and it simply fakes or mimics or emulates the remote control for my AC. So when we come from the vacation, we enter Serbia, we have, let's say, at least 6 hours of traveling across the Serbia to come to Novi Sad. Then I go to the website, my home website, and I turn on the AC, and by the time we come to home, our apartment is more or less chilled to the appropriate temperature. And this is a rough schematics of my home system. It actually consists of several Raspberry Pis, and each one of them is connected to several sensors, all types of sensors, or the humidity, or the temperature, or the motion detection, or the inductive switch, all sorts of sensors, and they all provide information to the home server. That home server pushes that information to the main server, which is on a dedicated machine somewhere on the internet, and then it uses Google to push the messages, notification messages to my Android application, or that server, the main server, pushes the messages through WebSockets to the website, so I get real-time information about motion detection sensors. And that main server is actually put on a commercial virtual machine with impressive price of $3.5 per month. And before I decided to put that on a commercial server, I tried all sorts of free servers. And as it says, free servers, it's never free. You always have to pay some kind of penalty. And I finally decided to spend that enormous amount of money of $3.50 per month and to buy a real virtual server. And I have placed a Java application, which is a web server, and it collects all the information, pushes that information to the Google Cloud, pushes that information to my website. So whenever I visit my website, I get real-time information about status of my home. That home server is also a Java application. It pulls all the sensors, it waits for the motion detection sensor to send the information, and then all that information is pushed upwards to the main server. And interesting enough, home server is not actually a Raspberry Pi, it is a Korean clone of Raspberry Pi called Odroid, and it is an unbelievable machine, and I'm shamelessly advertising them here. Okay, and what about the sensors? All the sensors are connected to their appropriate corresponding Raspberry Pis. Some of them are Raspberry Pi 1 because it was actual at that time when I purchased, and after that I started purchasing Raspberry Pi 0 because it is smaller, it is cheaper, and it works the same. So most of my sensors, Pis today are zeros, Raspberry Pi zeros, and of course that Odroid and Raspberry Pi 1 and so on and so on. Well, on one of them I have connected that infrared diode that emits infrared light to my AC. Obviously that one is conveniently placed under my AC, my climate control, so whenever I click on a button on my website, it turns on or it turns off the AC. And now, funny stuff. I have found some old crappy earphones and I just connected them to the Pi. And they emit a sine wave 3000 Hertz when a sound, when our door is being unlocked for more than 1 minute. And that's the key point. Then I figured out when we are actually unlocked. And what's the story? It's never at night, because we would hear that. But what is the situation when most of us actually forget to close the door, to lock the door? Well, you come with 2 kids, they're always nervous. Then you come, you have plenty of bags with you. Then you dump everything inside the apartment. You start, you know, unpacking, you start taking off shoes and everything. Then this one wants to go to the bathroom, this one wants to do something. And all that fuss, you simply forget to lock the door. And then this stuff kicks in and it starts beeping. And then it is very annoying. If you ever heard 3000 Hertz sine wave, it is very annoying. And of course, that reminds me that my door is not locked, and then I lock the door. So that was the idea. That was the actual moment that when I figured out that we are indeed unlocked sometimes during the day, but it is never in the morning. It is always in those stupid situations when you have to do multiple things when you come home, and then you forget to lock the door. And a final, let's say final appearance, but it is not final. This one is near the door, and inside there is a hidden Pi. In that box, my beloved wife donated me her box, and I put the Pi and all the stuff inside. And this is the famous AC controller. So this is the LED. It emits the infrared light upwards to the AC, and it turns on or off the AC. This is the Android application, and this exactly is the icon of my Android application. If you can see, it is a red lock, which means the door is locked, and it was locked at 10:32. And I had some room, and I placed the information about temperature inside the apartment and outside the apartment. And when the door is unlocked, momentarily it changes the color to the green. I get the timestamp when the door is unlocked, and if I'm a bit paranoid, I can tap with my finger on this icon and I get the immediate status of my door, so I can always pull that thing. This is the web application. It has several menu items, and this is the history of my door being locked or unlocked. And if this is red, this means that there has been detected some motion inside the apartment after the door was locked. Of course, when someone is inside the apartment, that is not the problem, that is normal. But if you go on a vacation and you see that, that could cause some kind of a problem. But actually we found out that there is a false positive motion detection triggering on those sensors, because they actually react on infrared light being emitted from our body heat. And if the sunbeam somehow conveniently hits the motion detection sensor, it triggers like someone was in front. And I found out, and of course it is quite interesting, because on this particular picture, this is my apartment, and for example, if this is activated and nothing else is activated, and this one is actually right next to the door, then you can guess that it came from the sunbeam coming from the window. And this is the fun stuff. If someone passes near the infrared sensor, then this becomes orange, like this one. and you see that this is orange, and someone activated this sensor. This one is here, this is the bathroom. That's the place when I caught my son, you know, cheating and lying that he laid on time. No, he didn't. And this one is perpendicular to that, this one is here, and this one is next to the computer. So there is a funny situation. I get a notification that my kid came home, then I see all the sensors like this, and then this, you know, becomes a brighter orange, meaning that he immediately sat in the computer and started playing the games. So I can easily figure out what is happening with them. And if I tap or click on any of those sensors, I get the information history in time, all the times that sensor was activated in past 24 hours. And this one is also interesting, since I have all those sensors, it's shame not to use that data. So I'm plotting the temperature change, humidity change. This is inside the apartment, 2 sensors of temperature. This one is outside, and this is the humidity. Now I'm sorry that I didn't put, for example, from yesterday, you would see spikes of rising humidity when the rain started to fall, and it really follows that pattern. So when the rain starts to fall, you get immediate rise of humidity, and if nothing happens, it will stay that time. During the summer, if the AC kicks in, then the humidity drops suddenly back to normal, because the AC always dries the air. So you get a very interesting picture, and I finally had the link between numerical data and feeling. For example, if I look outside and I see that it is 4 degrees Celsius, I know what to wear. Okay, someone would say you can go to the terrace and do it yourself, just, you know, to sense the temperature. But nevertheless, I have that numeric data, and it really helps me to distinguish what is happening. But it wouldn't require me to go from my mobile phone to go to the Android application or to my website to see the temperature. And sometimes I would just want to know what's the temperature to know what to dress. And of course, I always have some spare Raspberry Pis. And I have 2 of them actually. And I have purchased some cheap screens from AliExpress. And all these marvelous electronics, as you can see, with a lot of hot glue and stuff like that. And these are actually like a wall clocks. I put them on a wall, and I immediately see the temperature, the time, and that's enough for me. So I always have spare Raspberry Pis, and they somehow tend to die when when there is no electricity, and then it comes in, and then that surge of electricity kicks in, and it always makes some kind of a damage. And now we come to the more funny piece of my talk today, and this is the so-called Evil Dead application, or in Serbian, Zli Babo. And this Evil Dead application is actually made because my kids do not have self-control as expected, of course. And a couple of times my older son almost got late, or really got late to school, because he played some game. He could not, you know, leave the game and eat his lunch or just go to the school. And of course I momentarily installed some software, some other software for control, and most of those softwares are not controllable by, you know, by mobile phone, by some application, website or something like that. You need to go to that particular computer and do something, and I'm too lazy for that. And of course, as I said, when they're left alone, they're glued to desktop computers and mobiles. So I tried to restrict my older kid's time on a mobile by filtering his MAC address from the home router. And what he did, he found out some neighbor's router that was not password protected, and he connected to that and started, you know, again having that on watching YouTube. Then I hacked the neighbor's router to filter out my kid, and what did he do? He found out another one. And I said, this is a lost cause. I cannot simply hack that many neighbors' routers because of him, and I decided to cut the thing at the very beginning inside his mobile phone. And I have made an Android application which is which contacts the server, and whenever my kid is online, it ticks each minute and until the tick count reaches the daily quota, and then it logs the phone. So the only thing he could do is to call the police, 112 or 911 in America, and say, hello police, my dad locked my phone. I cannot play games. So that's the idea, that's the feature. It is not my programming skills, that's the feature. When you lock the Android phone, you can only call the police, nothing else. So I did that, and on a desktop computer, I did the same. I made a service in a C#, and that service does the same thing. It ticks, and after the quota has been reached, it not logs, it logs out, not lock the screen, it logs out my kid. So if he is playing game, the game is terminated. So he cannot continue playing the game. And both things are controlled from the single place, my Evil Dead server. So this is the web application, and I can play with that application, you know, from wherever. Even if I'm abroad, I get the message, Dad, could you please extend me 5 minutes more? I need to finish this game. No problemo. I just click and I give them an additional minutes. Or if they make me mad, I have a kill switch. One button that momentarily kills everything. And if it is really a rush, I have less than a minute, please. Then I have also instant key that instantly gives them some additional time. So I have, you know, quick dial buttons to do quick stuff, and of course I can always play, you know, select, modify, save stuff, you know, the CRUD operations and informational systems. And this application is actually my response to those challenges with mobile phones and PC computers. And this is how it looks. It is a masterpiece of web design, of course, as you can all see. And this is the table which lists all the accounts that I have created. So this is the desktop computer, and this is the desktop computer for my older and for my younger son. This is the daily quota, 2 hours and 1.5 hours. This is the last ping from the computer, so I know what's the last time when they pinged it, when they worked with that. This is the mobile phone of my younger kid, and this is the mobile phone of my older son. And please pay attention to the date. This is the actual date. Do you see something strange? This is here. On that slide, this is year 2018, which means that my software is no longer controlling my older son. Why? He would be socially inadequate if he is not 24 hours plugged in internally on the internet. So I simply have to uninstall Evil Dead because my son will be a social outcast. And that's the fate of my younger kid. He will definitely come to that age, and then the Evil Dead will be uninstalled from his mobile phone too. When they are small, you can do it without any problems, without any sense of guilt. You can do it. But when they become older and they start making social networking and contacts, no Evil Dead, unfortunately. However, Evil Dead on a desktop is always more than adequate for that. So, what's the story recap of this? I get the notification when the door is unlocked. Then both of them connect to the home Wi-Fi or run to the computer. And then, of course, the Evil Dead waits for them on that particular moment. And then I know everything. I can control them. We will see in the future how that will work. We all know that at this moment, Evil Dead is uninstalled from my older son mobile phone, and of course that is the fate for my younger son. So that is the recap of all the stories. I have some boring stuff, but I am not sure that we have enough time, so I will simply skip those things. What I wanted to talk about that is that Raspberry Pis are very prone to self-destruction. And of course, if if the electrical power goes out, then the SD card is corrupted, and then you have all sorts of problems. So I have made 3 interesting stuff. I have made a primitive UPS made of ultra capacitors. I have transformed the file system to the read-only, and I have developed a hardware watchdog timer that checks my system and does the automatic reset as everything is done. So to end this with a conclusion, it all started as a hobby project almost 5 years ago, and it works for quite a long time, quite stable. And in conjunction with even that application, it gives me some control over my kids. Of course, they don't like it, and you would wonder why my wife doesn't like it. Not because of the features. She likes the features, and she feels quite safe with all those features, but she hates when I'm in development mode. When I'm in development mode, I'm not friendly at all. I just bark on everyone and I say, leave me alone, I want to code. And I code for 10 hours if necessary. So she hates those moments, and that's why she doesn't like it. But fortunately, the software is quite stable, and now I do just periodical, maintenance and everything, so it is not the problem anymore. So the future work, why not adding webcams? But this is tricky, motion sensor, triggered image capture. I don't like those cameras being available for people to watch me coming to bathroom, probably only my tights and shorts and stuff like that. So perhaps this one is better. Hardening or replacing RPs or Raspberry Pis with ESP32 or Arduino, because they are more resilient, and but there also needs to be programming in C, and I was too lazy. I've done all this programming in Python because it is quite easy, and I need to dust off my C skills when I start playing with ESP32. So the main conclusion is it was fun and it is useful. And thank you for your attention.